Dialogues with Sri Ravi Shankar, brought to you by City Gold, passion for your success. To know more, SMS Gold to 2484.
When we pass from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
Human nature is akin to an atom, where the central point is positive and the negative charged particle is only in the circumference. Same with human beings, is it? Peace, serenity, sense of caring and compassion, all comes from the center of a human being. I think it's because of the stress and strain or lack of understanding.
That's probably true. I mean, I'm very struck by the way you put it, but I've seen so much of man's inhumanity to man around the world that sometimes it defies the imagination as to how people can behave like this. I mean, for example, in the former Yugoslavia, I was deeply involved in that terrible situation of the civil war, the killings, the massacres, the rapes. Talking about people who had lived side by side for generations. People, in fact, who had been neighbors of each other in the same streets, often in the same buildings. And yet you found human beings who used to entrust their key to a neighbor, going off and assaulting that neighbor's wife or raping his daughter, burning down his house, killing people. What makes human nature capable of that sort of atrocity? It's very difficult to understand.
You know, it's the identity crisis. A person identify himself with a particular religion, or see, suppose I say I am a Hindu, then my psychologist, those who are non-Hindus no longer belong to me. And you go inside the Hindu sect, okay, among the Hindu, if I am a Brahmin, or if I am a Vaishya, or a Kshatriya, or Dalit, then those who do not belong to Dalit are no longer mine. You know, this sense of identity with a particular religion or race, when that becomes prominent, takes over the basic identity of human beings, then all this problem starts. The first and foremost, a person should realize he is part of one spirit and part of one human race.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and I do agree with you. But the other point I would make is that all of us have multiple identities.
Correct.
I mean, no one is just his religion or her religion. I mean, everyone is, let us say, a Hindu, but also a father, also a IT software professional, also a cricket fan, also, let us say, a Brahmin or a Kshatriya. I mean, we all have so many different ways we can cut ourselves. What's curious is the way in which, when in situations of crisis or stress, people seem to fall back upon the most primordial identity, which too often turns out to be religion. And then religion as defined as something that sets you apart from others.
Because you have not seen something beyond the religion, as they have never inquired, who am I? What is my true nature? You know, what we call the Vedantic thinking, a spherical thinking, rather than thinking a linear way, that I belong to this religion or that religion.
What worries me is when some take Hinduism, this wonderful, majestic, tolerant faith which has never had any notion of heresy or of compulsory dogma, and then interprets it as a badge of identity. Sort of Hinduism reduced to the level of a football team you're supporting. So you're on my team if you accept my version of Hinduism, otherwise you're on the opposing team and I should hit you on the head.
Yeah.
That is what has to be condemned.
Again, I feel it is not such a problem. Once the universal identity and your religious identity do not really clash with each other. That understanding, that essence of religion, which is spirituality, need to be brought up in the world. I think that is the only way we can counter the terrorism. Terrorism can't be won by guns and by suppression, but winning the hearts.
It's an enormous challenge, though.
Yeah, I know.
Sri. I mean, when you think about what exactly is going on in the world today, and you mentioned terrorism particularly, we are facing a situation where many of those who are conducting such actions are impervious to the language of persuasion or even the language of tolerance. They are capable of such acts of atrocity that beyond a point you are not able to reach them. And what we can do is reach the populations that give them succor.
Correct.
That is, after all, terrorists, the killers, the murderers, the ones who strap bombs on children, make them suicide bombers, all of these people, they themselves cannot entirely survive without a population around them that
Correct.
gives them shelter, that allows them to survive, that allows them to escape, that helps them be financed. Perhaps we can try and reach the broader populations of society.
Yeah, I would say, we need to globalize wisdom. This Vedantic knowledge, teachings of Buddha, a little bit of Jesus, Muhammad, all this knowledge need to be made available to every child. UNICEF can take up some such projects.
Well, the problem the UN would face in a situation like that is that education is, of course, a matter that each state
State
country
subject.
controls, exactly. And so we would never ourselves, I'm afraid, be able to dictate the curriculum. We have tried in certain situations, particularly in situations where there has been a record of conflict and intolerance. We have attempted to try and encourage people to teach the virtues of tolerance in schools. But ultimately, if a government, a sovereign country, says we will determine our curriculum and this is what we're going to teach, no international body,
Yes,
I'm afraid,
yes.
can transcend that.
It's interesting to find peace amidst chaos. In the Lebanon crisis where there was bombing and all, 43 of our volunteers were working. They were taking, medicines and making people mind calm.
These are Lebanese volunteers.
Lebanese volunteers. It's like the violence rolls same way. Calmness also has an impact. If a person is calm and serene, he plays an impact on others. Where the bombs are falling all around, and keeping a calm mind and having confidence, this is a passing phase, we'll get over it, I think can only come through certain inner strength.
That's
in a
extraordinary.
spiritual.
Extraordinary, absolutely. But I'm not sure to what degree we can encourage the acquisition of this kind of inner strength by larger numbers of people, because too often, as we know, religion has been used by people not as a source of inner calm or inner strength, but rather as an instrument of violence. In fact, Kofi Annan, the outgoing Secretary General of the UN, once said, I think rather memorably, that the problem is never the faith, it's the faithful. Because the faithful take the faith and they use it, as a cudgel to hit others with.
Yeah.
And this is something which clearly those who have benefited from your instruction are able to do. I know you've taken your course to the jails of India, Tihar jail and so on.
We have done it in jails all over the world.
All over the world.
In Kosovo, in fact, we have done for the war victims and the prisoners, also the military people. In Croatia, after the war, there was